Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I'm seeing green, This is going to be my last one for tonight. Guys, I want to start off saying I want to thank all my patrons. And I want to thank all the people who donate Super Cash. I try to say that. My wife always like, make sure you say thank you, etc. So let's get that out front. And this one is going to be on this is a 420, so blaze one if you got one. Blaze one if you got one. And it's going to be a grossly uncomfortable 420. I'll say it that way. And I don't mean gross in the like gross sense. I mean gross in the like weird emotional like that's making me immensely uncomfortable. Particularly if you're slightly buzzed, when you're kind of feeling that stuff a little bit more. So I don't know how everybody else experiences it. I experience it most in my heart center. So I want to talk about Black Mirror. Black Mirror is one of my favorite shows on television. Season 4 recently came out. I binge watched the entire season the first night that it came out. Fucking love it. Fucking love it. The last episode, I think it's called Black Museum. Black Museum, how can I say it? How can I explain it? So imagine a scenario where your society develops the technology to pull out an aspect of consciousness and put that into a digital format, like a digital soul of sorts. Now, you can get this a few ways. Maybe you can pull a bit of DNA from somebody, you can grow that particular person in a digital space, in which case you have all of the thoughts and memories and feelings and everything else, a self-aware copy of the person who you've taken that from. Or maybe you can pull it just using some bit of technology where you're sticking something in their heads and pulling out like brainwave patterns, the way their brain works in a particular way, taking the electrical signals from that particular thing. It's almost like making a recording of it and being able to extrapolate a digital copy from that particular person. Again, all of the thoughts and feelings and emotions and everything else associated with that person. And from a scientific standpoint, that person doesn't know that they're not the original person who they came from. Meaning, for all intents and purposes, that thing that you've taken and that thing that you've put into a digital space believes it's the person who you took it from. They don't know they're different. That's how much they're alike. It's literally a digital soul or a digital copy of the person. Now, you can imagine that if their society is anything like our society, this will probably be a product. Meaning this will probably be something that would be bought and sold. This will be some level of a commodity. Now, this commodity can be put into some kind of reality world. I mean, because after all, they would have to exist in some sort of environment if for all intents and purposes thinks it's you. So you create a body for it and then everything else, and it can operate and move, and it has ranges of freedom and degrees, but it is in another reality frame. It is in, for all intents and purposes, a different dimension than our own. The thing is, if a company is going to turn this into a commodity, the company is not going to accept that that thing is conscious, that thing is aware. That thing thinks it's you. That thing is self-aware. It evolves, it grows, it does everything else that you do. It's just in a digital space. But the company in no way is going to give that any level of agency. Again, it's in a different dimension from us. It's in a digital dimension in this case. And being in this digital dimension, I guess you can make the question, does it really matter? It's self-aware. It's, for all intents and purposes, alive. And that becomes a question, is it alive? But if you're going to ask that question to whether this particular thing is alive, you have to ask that question to anybody else. If that thing grows, responds, interacts, has feelings, thoughts, emotions, and everything else in the same way that you have feelings, thoughts, and emotions and other people, how can you say it's not alive? I can't read anybody else's emotions outside of looking at them, and this thing is putting out those things in the same way that anybody else would. You can imagine, just like cigarette companies saying that tobacco doesn't cause cancer, meaning people smoking doesn't cause cancer. Our product doesn't cause cancer. We have doctors here saying that cigarettes are good for you. It makes you strong. Look at the cowboy. That cowboy is so rugged. There's no way that it can cause cancer. Yeah, it does cause cancer. It didn't stop them from fighting it in court cases for God knows how long, even when they knew that the science said it caused cancer. It didn't stop Exxon from fighting this idea of global warming or climate change, still fights it today in the same way that the tobacco company fought it in order to protect their particular product. If a company has the capacity to do this, the company is not going to give up the rights to that particular product. If a person spends their money to do this, they're not going to want to give up the rights to that particular product. Meaning those things, just by virtue of the way this society operates and wanting to keep a certain level of dominance, will not see that life as an actual life. It will look at that life as a commodity. This, of course, is going to take you to very bizarre and terrifying spaces. For all intents and purposes, that would be you. Meaning, if you didn't know, let's say I took a part of you. You didn't know anything about it. Maybe it was from a coffee cup. Maybe it was from something else. And in taking that part of you, I grew you in a petri dish. And in growing you in a petri dish, in a digital petri dish, I now put you into a game space. And I have complete control of you, even though you don't even know that you're there. The copy of you have all of your thoughts and memories and feelings and emotions and everything else just like you. You don't know that the copy of you is made. This gets very weird and bizarre. Imagine for the moment some pervert grabbing the woman that he's been adoring from across the room, putting her into a digital space and forcing her for particular favors. Now, she may not comply originally, but initially you can torture that particular program. Meaning you can make that program hurt, you can make that program be in absence, meaning a vacuum of space for a period of time. You can make that program feel like it's gone through an eternity in solitude and isolation. You can do all sorts of things. It's in a digital space. You have complete control over its space. You have complete control over its reality. From the standpoint that that particular program is in, it's in its own physical matter reality. But you yourself understands that they're in a digital space and you can have access to everything and every property of that digital space. Imagine for the most part, and mind you, that's not just a woman, that can go both ways. They can go both ways. Imagine somebody committing a crime or believed to be commit a crime in the police department, taking a digital copy of that particular person and interrogating the digital copy, maybe even torturing the digital copy. Because that digital copy has no rights, but the person himself has rights. So that person sits in a cell while the copy is being tortured and beaten and extracted for information. The copy tells. The person didn't open his mouth. And that guy is convicted. Imagine this idea of just outright torturing the copy itself. Meaning, say for the moment, you're cash strapped. Say you're broke. Say you're trying to make ends meet. So you sell your digital copy to a gaming company that puts that game, your copy, into a war machine. Like Gears of War Part 4, something like that. Your copy is fighting goons and goblins. A real self-aware copy in a video game being shot up and murdered on a daily basis. This gets a little weird. This gets a little bizarre. Imagine a situation where a death row inmate, and this was one of the ones on Black Mirror that was the most shocking and weird and bizarre and creepy. A man gets convicted of a crime he didn't commit. And in being convicted of a crime he didn't commit, his family is broke. He's broke. And somebody comes to him and says, look, if you give me the rights to your digital copy at the time of your death, I will make sure that your family is okay. Meaning, I will make sure your family is set for life. Just your copy. That's all. I mean, after all, what are you going to do with your copy? I mean, you can't do anything with it, right? And at the very least, your family will be okay. He agrees to this. He says, fine. You guys, he's talking to his wife, you're going to be okay. And his wife pleads with him not to do this. And he says, no, you're going to be okay. What do I care? It's just a copy. Those things aren't real anyway. He gets put to the electric chair. And as getting put to the electric chair, the guy comes back to him and puts a device on his head. They pull the juice. He gets electrocuted. He's murdered by the state. The guy pulls the device off, and he has his digital copy. He's made a copy of that particular person while that person was being executed. Fast forward to this guy, comes to find out this guy's a business guy. And he opened an exhibit where people can come and see all of these different artifacts of crime. And this last big show-stopping artifact is this particular guy who he has a digital copy, and he has this guy in a life-size cell where that guy is now stuck in a cell for all eternity. And he tells him, you're going to be my best attraction. People are going to be able to come in, and they're going to be able to pull this lever. And as the guy puts a few buttons on the computer, a lever pops up. Not a lever pops up, but he realizes an electric chair pops up. He pulls the lever, and he's being electrocuted with the exact same feeling at the moment that he was electrocuted when he was killed, when his physical body was killed. He realizes, okay, I can only pull this button for 10 seconds. Anything after 10 seconds is going to damage the program. Because, yes, these things are physical. I mean, they're copies, but they're sentient copies. They're just like you. For all intents and purposes, they are you. They're just a copy of you. And it being a copy of you, at a certain point, you have a mental breakdown. Just like if at a certain point of pressure that was applied to you, you would have a mental breakdown. The programs themselves also break down. They realized that they can only torture this program for 10 seconds. Meaning they can only pull the lever for 10 seconds before it lost it. It went crazy and it would destabilize the program itself. Meaning 15 seconds would destabilize, but anything more than 10 seconds would damage the program. So people would come from far and wide, and they would pull the lever, and he would be electrocuted over and over and over and over and over again, day after day after day after day after day. Every so often, it got to the point where there started to be protests because people started to realize that these digital copies are somewhat self-aware, and there was a movement in the society itself to stop those things from being tortured and mutilated in this way. Before there was any kind of legislation, however, this still was going on. There were protests, there were people, flagging at what this guy was doing, essentially electrocuting this thing over and over again. And finally, it got to the point where the guy's business started to suffer. So being a good capitalist, he opened this thing up to other markets, meaning people who just got off torturing other people, including some people who were just racist and loved this idea of electrocuting this guy. One guy paid him more money in order to electrocute him beyond the 10-second threshold, which essentially damaged the program, but the program was still in existence, meaning he could still electrocute him, but the program was somewhat fucked up. This went on for apparently a long period of time until it got to the point where this particular program, that for the most part, broke down. This is somewhat terrifying. And by the way, every time the program was executed, it would make a little copy that a person could take home. And it would come into a little ball that would roll out, and the person could carry it with them on a keychain, with this person being tortured in that particular moment of execution for the rest of his life in eternity. Not even like eternity. A little digital copy in perpetual torture. It didn't matter if he was being tortured in perpetuity for that point, because it was just a digital copy at that point. It wasn't the main copy. So for him, his main copy wasn't being destroyed, but this little copy could be in perpetual torture forever. This is bizarre and fucked up. This is bizarre and fucked up. The other awesome point to this, though, is this idea of eternal life. Like, so imagine for the moment you can put yourself into the program itself. And in putting yourself into the program, people make the decision that, look, we can have multiple lifetimes within this program space, this digital space. We can live with experiences. It would no way affect our physical bodies, and we can just bang around with one existence after the next, after the next, after the next, for God knows how long, without our physical bodies being damaged or destroyed or injured. The breadth of knowledge and experience that a person could take on is something like that would be mind-blowing. That's not even creating a digital copy of yourself. It is creating a digital copy of yourself, but it's investing you, meaning your current consciousness, into that particular digital copy. The potentials for that are amazing, but the other part of that is terrifying. It's fucking terrifying. I in no way trust the company to do that. And I in no way want to see a situation where consciousness can be perpetually tortured for fucking eternity. It's fucking amazing. Yeah, it's terrifying. The wife inside her husband's mind was freaky as fuck. Yeah, it was. I wouldn't want that. I don't know why anybody would want that. One of the episodes had a wife that was put inside the mind of the other person because the wife's body was injured. And he would walk around and she was just chattering his head constantly. Yeah. probably should skip season 1, E4 until you watch the others. Yeah, it's an amazing episode, man. Those things are amazing. I would say start at season 1 and just go all the way through. It's binge watching. It's Twilight Zone on steroids. Like, it's one of those things. It's freaky because of how close you can see it. It's like, it's not that many stones away from where we are, where you can kind of say, yeah, I can kind of see where we can get to that point, which makes it that much more terrifying and that much more, ugh. Yeah, it's awkward. It's just awkward. Alright, I'm not going to keep this one long. I just wanted to talk about this. I love this show, man. I am a total Black Mirror fanboy, so as these things come up and they do something fucking awesome, I'm probably going to talk about it. Alright, guys, I will leave it at that. You guys have a good one.